I'm Nate,
I'm Noah.
and this is our fourth chat of Talking Lion. We do these chats every week to just sort of catch up with each other, see our good and our bad, take a gander at our media consumption,
Yep.
and just sort of check in to see how we're doing, check in to see how you're doing. So it's just these fun things that we're doing. So this is the fourth.
Yeah.
Before we dive in, just want to give a reminder that we have a Patreon as well. So if you want to be a supporter of the show, a subscriber of the show, help us keep this going and help our community as well, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/talkinglion. I think that's pretty much all I got to say as far as that goes. How are you doing, bud?
I'm doing okay. I'm a little tired today. Today's a sleepy kind of day.
And we're going to have a sleep little podcast. So,
Without further ado.
this is Talking Lion. Oh, hey, bud.
Hey, buddy.
We just had a burger.
Yeah. Ooh, umami burger.
Yeah. You know, an unsponsored plug for Umami Burger. That was delicious. I feel like a new person.
I feel thoroughly rejuvenated, and I will say, Umami Burger's Impossible Burger is the best Impossible Burger I've had.
You had an Impossible Burger. I had a kombucha. We are living the LA lifestyle. We were talking while we were eating it. Like, why do you think... You know, there were all the stereotypes we were hearing about LA.
You're going to move to LA, you're going to do yoga, you're going to meditate, you're going to drink kombucha, you're going to eat
and I laughed. I laughed when like people said you're going to do all these things, and now I'm doing all these things, and yeah, I don't know. Like I'm a New Yorker. You're a Roman. You know, why all of a sudden do we like change who we are when we move to LA?
I think there's something about California as a culture and LA specifically. I think it's just a very wellness focused culture. I think people take health and wellness very seriously, and it's like very tied into the general ethos of living in LA and the people you're surrounded by. And I
you
think
kind of get the options. You're like, oh, we actually have good vegan food.
Yeah, that's
like,
part of it too.
You
It's
know?
like it's so much part of the culture that you actually have places to go to that can satisfy the needs of more health focused dietary choices. And there's like a yoga shop, like a yoga studio on every
We're gonna
corner.
sell you some you want to buy a yoga?
Wanna buy a
you get
can of
one,
yoga?
You get one can of yoga.
Yeah, one can of yoga.
Yeah, I feel that. Well, and outside of New York, you were saying like New York's more like a time management thing. And New York's probably, you know, New York has evolved over the years
Yeah.
to be more almost LA like.
Yeah, I think New York and LA culturally have definitely fed into each other. But I do feel like New York, the thing you tend to hear about New York from people who spend a lot of time in New York is like it's like about the quote unquote hustle. I've heard that a lot from people, like, oh, like New York is all about like jam pack, like starting your sessions really early and like jam packing your days full of stuff. And I feel like that culturally, like there's less time and less incentive for people to like meditate, whereas everything happens at a slower pace in California.
Which, like, when we first came here, we were like, oh, yeah, you know, that's our edge. We're going to, like, move at a faster pace and, like, fuck the slow pace and, like, whatever. Now I feel we've both kind of embraced, like, oh, the reason why that's the thing that's kind of, like, won out is because it feels kind of better. Like,
Yeah.
I feel almost more productive when I can, like, rest, relax, ease into something, and then, like, okay, now I'm working.
Yeah, definitely. And I think especially as a creative, when you let things take their time and you're not so regimented about like forcing ideas, like, yeah, you can get a lot done if you like are military about your tasks. But there's also, I think, like creative ideas that only evolve when they have breathing room. And I think that like LA, it just does that to you.
I love being asked like how I deal with writer's block because that's not something that I've ever put like a name to ever. Because it's just, I just don't write if I don't feel like it, you know?
Yeah.
Like you can't hit writer's block if you're not pushing up against the wall. I feel like letting the creative ideas, like I turn the switch in my head, like I'd like to write something today or this week or something. I turn that switch on. And so I look around and see and let that kind of filter open. But I've never like sat down like, now I'm going to write. It's 1:00 on a Wednesday, I'm going to write.
Yeah, because that doesn't always work. Like you can force yourself to write something, but it's not always good, especially if you're forcing yourself.
And what sessions really are is like a sort of inspiration machine. It's just three people who are not necessarily forcing themselves to write, but saying, it'd be really nice if we could come up with something What's on your mind? Oh, what's on my mind? Let's take a walk. Like it's sort of, I don't know, accelerating that process, I think, in a
it's
nice
kind
way.
of like, it's not rocket science, haha, but it is like building a spaceship or like flying a spaceship, I guess. Like you got to produce enough energy to escape the gravity of the earth. And I feel like
Is the gravity in this just like general tiredness and fatigue?
like general tiredness, but also like the legs of a creative idea. Like I think that like when you're making something by yourself, it requires more energy to escape the gravity of like this is not anything. Like there's always that threshold when you like pass and it's like this is a real like song. Like this song has a beating heart, or it has legs, or it's like started to form into a real idea. And that's just a lot easier to achieve with people because everyone's kind of like bouncing the ball back and forth.
Well, and it really, I think oftentimes just takes one inspired person. Like I think it's really, I think it's very hard not to write a song when there's at least one inspired person in the room.
Yeah.
Whereas like if everybody in the room who's trying to write a song is just like blah for the day, then you're not going to get anything, you know? I feel like when you're just by yourself, you are as good as your level of energy. Whereas like when you're in a room full of people, I think whoever has the most energy winds up inspiring everybody else to have that same level of energy. Well, on that note of collaboration, I'm working on my segues on these chats, but yeah.
I don't know where you're going, but that was pretty good. I'm assuming.
Well, two sides. There's this segue of support. We have our first Talking Lion supporter, Alan C., who submitted a question for us for our chat.
Okay.
So that's the first one, and it's about our collaboration.
Okay.
So there's the two-sided. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And the question is, how did you guys decide on making music together? Were one of you reluctant at first, or were you both excited about the idea?
Huh.
Can I answer this first?
Yeah, go
because
for it.
I'm really, I've known the question for a couple hours. You are just getting it now.
Let me give it a think.
Well, we first started making music together sort of just by like circumstance. You were down the hall from me, and your door was always open because you had two doors and one couldn't lock.
Yeah.
And my roommates would go to bed early, so I would just like wander into your room, oftentimes just to do homework. You would play guitar or piano, and occasionally we would do like Bon Iver covers. And I had like a folk project kind of going on. So you kind of joined that as like the drummer. I didn't even know you didn't play. Like you were like, I'll play drums. Like
I used to be a drummer, so I was like, that I can fill that role.
Yeah, but we never really kind of did that. To answer the question, though, what I think is interesting, and I love this sort of reluctant question, is that I don't think I went into the collaboration reluctantly because I knew my limitations. Two, I didn't really know you.
Yeah.
Like if anything, we went into this collaboration not as friends or not as like friends that we would become.
Yeah.
It was two like pragmatic forces of we could probably do this together better than we could do it separately. And then we became friends like over time.
Yeah.
But I think what I wish I knew going into it, that I feel like, you know, we've still like kind of foundationally had to work on or like have worked on, is just I didn't know what being in a duo would entail.
Yeah. No, I didn't know either.
You know, like I think I knew that we would make work together and like everything, but I'd been in a duo in high school, and what that duo was he was super reluctant to be in it. And so I would just have to do everything. And he was just kind of like, I mean, no slight to him, he had other things going on, but it was just like he was playing drums and I was doing everything else. And just realizing I think one of the most inspiring things over the last couple of years is just realizing how talented and how much you have to say and how much of a strong voice you have when I can shut up. I think that going into this, I wish I knew what it meant to just be in a duo. Didn't mean I'm doing everything and somebody's helping make that happen. It means giving space to let both voices like ring in a nice way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I would say I didn't necessarily go into anything reluctantly. I think after my first semester of Berkeley, where I didn't do a whole lot of anything, my push going into whatever that year was, 2015.
Well,
going into 2015.
Going into
2015, I think I was just like, I just wanted to say yes to everything. I just wanted to join. I just wanted to be in a bunch of collaborations. So like my internal drive was just like, I'm just going to like make a bunch of music, and working with you just happened to be one of the things that I end up falling into.
Because you were in another band at the time too, right?
Yeah, I was in that video game choir. I was keyboardist for like an Italian pop band. I was in like a prog rock band for a while that I like went to rehearsals for. Like there's a period where I was doing a lot of stuff, and Sleeping Lion was just one of the things I happened to be doing. But then it sort of slowly took up more and more time. And I feel like we had that first writing session where we tried to like collaborate on lyrics, and I think there was no framework for understanding there. We're just like, all right, well, they're not going to do that anymore. And then I focused on music and you focused on lyrics, and that kind of naturally fell into a groove, and I didn't really have issues with that. And it was all very intuitive and natural starting out. We just had a lot of similar musical interests and had a kind of similar, like, young, scrappy, and hungry appreciation for the new wave of electronic music, and a kind of I don't know what the adjective is, like a sort of a slow realization that we actually liked pop music. Slow creeping sheepish admittance that
like the gauntlet was thrown, but we weren't aware of it. Like that we were getting into pop music because the stuff we were making and the people that we were surrounding ourselves with were moving towards that.
Yeah. And with it, the sort of creeping feeling that I'd actually liked pop music all along. That we'd both learning to accept that pop music is actually cool. I think we kind of went on that journey together, because I think we both went into Berkeley a little bit on our high horses of whatever we were coming from.
For me, what stands out in this sort of early days of us was not so much the You Made Me writing session, like when that sort of came to be, which I found the voice memo of.
Whoa,
which is crazy. Wild. Maybe I'll toss it in here.
1, 2, 3. You made me love the quiet hum. Wait till the morning sun. The morning sun. You made me love. Da 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 da. Wait till the morning sun. Oh, morning sun. Oh, you made me love the things I love. Kept me home. Made me wrong.
Wait. No, when are we gonna work out?
You made me love. Cool?
Yeah. Whoa, that would be insane.
That's so far back.
So that's like 5 years ago.
Yeah, but like what actually stands out is hearing like your first demo of Generous. Because you essentially made Generous on your own.
Yeah.
In your own kind of world and vacuum. But I heard something, and then that became a lot of our collaboration, which is like you have all these ideas, and then I would sort of just pick my favorite parts of the ideas and stuff. I do remember you telling me a story though of like when you made a decision that like this was the thing versus
there's a particular moment I remember being like, this Sleeping Lion is the thing I'm going to put the most of my energy into. Like, this seems like all of the factors that have coalesced in this, like the business plan and the creative side of it, like this feels like the project that has the most legs. Like, this seems like something that I could actually like invest a lot of time into and get something out of. And there's a very clear moment where it's like, I'm gonna make this, like, try to make this a thing and give this all I've got, and not like hold back and be like, oh, I'm gonna like do other stuff. Like, I'm gonna like give my creative output to this entity.
As far as you and I go, if we could go back 5 years, or you could pull yourself aside 5 years ago, is there anything you would do differently, or any sort of advice you would give him about what it means to be in a duo? Mine's easy. I'd just be like, shut the fuck up, kid.
Yeah. I think mine would be speak up more, and also just be less precious about ideas, and like maybe less precious about quality.
But hey, where would we have been if we didn't fight about quality?
Yeah,
we would genuinely argue like until 5 a.m. about like what quality meant, like conceptually.
And how much it matters, like how, like the art versus commerce, like if a song is good enough, it'll cut through the noise versus like there's at a certain point
you
were
hard
noise.
Quality and I was hard marketing, but like what we came to discover both by doing it and by like having the argument 8 different ways over the course of 2 years or 3 years was that like both are a little true.
Yeah.
Like it's obviously always going to be a balance of marketing and quality, which I think we were just like too young to like realize that things didn't have to be black and white. Like things could be, like there weren't binary answers to what a hit is.
Yeah. I think that would be the advice I'd give to my younger self. Be like, deal less in absolutes. Only a Sith deals in absolutes, which is itself an absolute statement. You ever think about that? Like when the Jedi are like, only Siths deal in absolutes. Like, Dude, you started your sentence with only.
Well,
Like, you
maybe that's like part of, and we're a couple days from May the 4th be with you.
Oh, true.
But I think it showed the sort of like short-sightedness of the Jedi. If anything, it was like a heavy-handed writing piece of like, oh, the Jedi claimed that the Sith were all these things, and they were also sort of like all of these things.
Yeah, Anakin did nothing wrong.
I mean, he killed children.
Yeah, but can you blame him? Yes.
Yes.
Killing children is bad.
Can we
Yeah, I'm gonna
go on the record?
I'm gonna go on the record and say killing children is bad.
killing children. But hey, maybe we should watch Clone War and get more context.
I honestly have considered it.
People say it's good.
It seems good.
And on that note,
Yes.
TV shows.
TV shows.
We watched a pretty good TV show this week.
We did. We blew through it.
We are big fans of Say It With Me. 3, 2, 1, Dave.
Dave.
Oh, come on.
that's
We
cool.
could have done that
Yeah, whatever.
better. Dave, FX, X. We watched it on Hulu. We just kind of tore through it.
Yeah, it's just like popcorn.
I'd been hesitant about watching it because I like Little Dicky, but also like to watch hours of Little Dicky. I was like, I don't know. And then friends in music just kept suggesting it. I don't necessarily love music shows.
Yeah.
I think they're hard to watch, especially because they feel very disjointed from what our real life is. I imagine doctors watching medical shows probably feel similarly.
It's just like that would never happen, or like that just doesn't feel like what the real thing feels like. It pulls you out of it. Like if you're too close to music, it's hard to watch like musicians in media. Or
But I feel like that's what Atlanta did right. Is that Atlanta one had like a cool sort of surrealist, like tinge to the whole thing, like tone to the whole thing, but it also like Gambino knows the music industry, so that
it just
early come
portrayed
up
that
vibe is
effortlessly. Like he didn't have to. There was no translation involved in having to understand what that culture was like because he's like a genuine part of that culture.
And I felt that way about Dave. Like
Yeah.
what was so interesting. And obviously, like at first there were like, the dick jokes and like the kind of semi-bro like humor. But as it progressed, what was so cool about the show was that it felt so close to home about like what that hustle meant, what it meant to like be kind of like close to and like friendly with people who were doing well, but not quite there.
Yeah.
And also then like the relationship that you have to juggle through that and having your best friend also be your manager. Like there was so many things to unpack.
They dealt with mental illness in a really like nice neat packaged way.
People are saying that that's the episode, the Hype Man episode, episode 5. That's the episode that people need to get to understand that this show has like its heart. It's like that second to last episode of the first season of BoJack, where it's like, oh, this is not just a comedy. This is somebody's life.
It feels very lived in. It's a very lived in show.
I feel for anybody who's written the show off, let this be your call to just give it a shot.
Yeah, give it a go.
Check it out. It's worth it. I think Dave Bird, Lil Dicky really did the work to make this a special show.
Yeah.
You're the choir. I'm preaching to you, but I'm really talking to you fellow listener.
But I will say, as I went in skeptical, thinking like this is going to be like an ego trip. It's going to be like Lil Dicky just being like, look how cool my life is. And there's like twinges of that, but it feels earned. Like he gives you enough. There's good characters. The dialogue is really well written.
He's talented, but like also I feel like he plays on the fact that like he needs his people.
Yeah, all the characters are really nuanced. They have depth to them that is just carried through in the writing and the acting. And it's really refreshing to go through.
What is something new and something old you listen to?
Something new. I found this rapper named Warren is Yellow. It's one word. It came up on my Discover. It has a song called Candy Shop that came up on Discover. And I just listened to the whole record. He's got a record called Sugartown. It's like a fun, slightly emo rap record that like rides the line of being like a little campy, but all the beats are really cool and like have a lot of like quirky sound design, and they're just really fun. And his lyric writing is really interesting. Kind of reminds me of like Tokyo or a little bit of like Javon, like the
like
the Javon record with Lito. Like it's got that kind of flavor to it. And it was just like a nice, record that came out pretty recently that I discovered. And I'm like, that was just a nice. I was taking a drive, I was through the record on. I'm like, yeah, that was an enjoyable and interesting music experience.
Well, speaking of Lito, my new is JoJo's record, specifically Thinking About You.
Yeah, that's a great song.
That song is so good. I mean, I've low-key been a JoJo fan for a minute now. But I just find the way that her and Lito collaborated on the record, but specifically on this song, to be really special. It's tight writing. The production's minimal, but like really impactful.
Yeah.
Which Lito's always been good at, but I just feel like JoJo they brought out the best in each other on this
Yeah.
record, and I think it's really cool to kind of hear two styles that I'm like really familiar with gel in such a nice way.
Yeah.
What's your old?
What's my old? Oh, I was thinking about this. I think breaking with the old jazz records that I've been listening to, I've been recently revisiting the second Arctic Monkeys record, Favorite Worst Nightmare, which was a really formative record for me, especially when I was like 15, 16. It's been really interesting going back to a record like that I listened to so much, that was really like influential on how I write lyrics and like just my conception of like what a fun, energetic song is. And it's just interesting to like reflect on music that was so formative with the new lens that I have, like having been doing this for a long time.
Well, on a similar vein, we're just ping ponging. This is like a
Boop, boop.
It's like a
like a
call,
game
call
of-
us Atari. We're playing pong.
We're playing pong.
We're playing
Pause
pong.
it back.
The other day we were working on a song, and you brought up the Exhale output plugin, and the way that like initialized patch sounded like reminded me of this song that we listened to back at school.
Oh, yeah.
Called "The Hymn of Axiom" by Vienna Tang. I don't know what her career has been like, or if she ever kind of like popped off, but she had this one song that was Imogen Heap inspired, like hide and seek inspired. That was a hymn, and lyrically, at first it starts really sweet, but it turns into this song about data collection and about like algorithms learning how to like make you kind of fall in love with consumerism. And it gets like from voices that sound like a choir to this like modulating, very kind of like digital sounding vocoder, and just grows into this like really dissonant kind of choir. And, you know, I didn't necessarily grow up with hymns and sort of church music because I'm Jewish, but just kind of like hearing that harmony for the first time when I was in school really hit me, and just hearing it again was like a nice kind of nostalgia trip for me in the midst of us working on some songs. I don't necessarily have a great segue for this one, but what is something cool that you kind of saw or learned this week?
Oh yeah, this is a fun one. This morning, out of curiosity, I don't know why, but I woke up with this thought of, I wonder if Echo Park is in GTA 5, because it struck me that I had never played Grand Theft Auto 5. I haven't played it really since moving to Los Angeles, and I had the thought of wanting to, like, now that I have experience like being in Los Angeles and driving Los Angeles, like how well did Rockstar capture the feeling of the city? So I woke up this morning and like fired up GTA 5 and like looked on the internet and found that there's actually a place called Mirror Park, which I think is a really funny, mirror echo. Like it looks like Echo Park. They even have this sign that has a little leaf with the
like the lotus thing.
Yeah, like the little LA Parks and Rec like sign, like that like looks accurate. It's kind of in the uncanny valley because it doesn't entirely like follow the structure of Echo Park, but they captured the flavor of like what actually walking around Echo Park is like, and I think that's really interesting.
Better than like Fallout in Boston.
Yeah, like Fallout 4 did not necessarily feel like Boston in the way that Fallout 3 felt like Washington D.C. in like a really tangible kind of way. It's very hard to capture the vibe of a city in like a 3D format, but it is like when game developers nail it, it's really cool because it's like something you can't really get out of any other medium than like a video game, like being able to virtually explore a space and the vibe of a space that, actually exists in the real world.
I feel like New York has actually done pretty well as far as faithful video game recreations. Grand Theft Auto 4 and Spider-Man, the game. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, like Brooklyn tends to get the short end of the stick when it comes to these games, but I feel like the big stuff like Times Square and everything feel really big and feel really faithful to that. Whereas Boston and Fallout was egregious. Like
that
was
the commons is too small, and just there's
Walden you could walk across in like 30 seconds.
Yeah, it was like the greater Boston area like scrunched into a tiny map. It just felt really weird for anyone who's familiar with the actual geography.
I'm trying to think of like other things. Like, well, my question is, did you ever play?
Oh yes,
Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed.
You saw where I was going.
Yeah, I did see where you were going with that. Yeah, that's another interesting one that I had fun with because I played Assassin's Creed Brotherhood while I was in Rome. And obviously it's Rome in like the 1600s. But I remember going around trying to find where my house would have been. And it was just like a field. Because that's, I think, pretty accurate, like what it would have been. At a certain point, it was just like a more like hilly rural part of Rome before it got developed in the like I think in like the more like like after the Renaissance.
I think new listeners are learning that you grew up in Rome. This is
And
new.
the information's floating
Yeah,
around there
it's
somewhere.
around
But
there.
if you don't know now, you know.
We are New Yorkers and Romans. This is
Yes, New Yorkers and Romans, just a couple of imperialists.
that's just oh god. Yeah, good.
I would say both New York and Rome have a similar flavor of culture insofar as they both have the like vibe of a high school quarterback who is 4 years removed from being in high school. It's like you used to be the hottest like thing on campus, and now
You can
maybe
say shit on our own
You could
podcast.
see that he used to be the no, just hottest shit. I didn't feel like it fit there. You could be like the
You were the warmest turd.
You're the warmest back in the day, but now you're constantly clinging to the fort. But maybe Rome more so than New York. But there's something about that.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
New Yorkers never lost a whole empire, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I don't mean to like, you
No,
know.
I mean that's
but-
fair.
Yeah.
And but that's the thing. That's such a part of Roman culture that they like. You feel that in modern day
Wait,
Rome.
like people will wake up like, fuck, we used to have an empire,
No,
you know?
it's more just the spirit that created such an empire that was so great, but also so fell apart so spectacularly is very much still present in the culture. Like there's an arrogance and like a confidence and like a sense for like beauty and power that you see why these people this culture of people ruled the world, but also why they fucked it up basically.
I was thinking about New York in that same respect, and I feel like New York was sort of like this modern drive
Yeah.
in the US. Like there was a modernism about living in New York.
It was the
like,
greatest
there's-
city in the world.
Yeah,
It was
there's
like
Thoroughly Modern Millie, there's Great Gatsby. Like there was something very like if you lived in New York, there was a modernness about you.
Yeah.
You know, you were breaking the rules, you were whatever. But now that the world is modern, I feel like New Yorkers still have this somewhat kind of like elitism as far as like, oh, we are just slightly faster, we're slightly smarter, or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel in New York elitism on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it comes from the sort of history of what New York was in the context of what it is now, where everybody's kind of, I mean, rural areas are still rural areas, but I feel like cities are all somewhat more similar. You were saying at the beginning, LA and New York are somewhat just similar at this point because we can all just communicate to each other about what it means to be modern.
Yeah.
Oh, well, the cool thing that I saw, this is not as cool as your thing, though you're 2 for 2 with video game stuff.
Yeah. That is interesting.
I've been biking around a lot, and there are like steps in Echo Park that had these like balloons with a very specifically sort of drawn face. And as I was biking around like the Silver Lake area, I found more spots that this specific street artist had actually like painted signs and walls and stuff with these similar faces, including a TV with the
Ooh.
face painted on the TV inside a shop.
Whoa.
So this is like a East Side artist that
That's
is
cool.
making their mark. I don't know anything more about that, but maybe I'll post on our Instagram story what it is.
Yeah, maybe someone knows.
Maybe we can sleuth, you know? What's the last picture that was on your camera roll?
It is. Oh, it's a picture of Adam, or my friend Adam, blowing out his birthday candles in our driveway, 6 feet apart. Quarantine times. What's the last picture in your camera roll?
So without saying too much, for the promotion of our next single, we're kind of looking back at older photos. And one of them, and this is the last one that was in my roll, was actually taken at the Hi-Hat by our friend Mackenzie Mothica.
Oh, yeah.
And it's me just sort of blurry, just like kind of walking, but it looks really kind of like weird.
Spooky.
But I'm remembering just looking at this photo that actually it was taken on the day that I bumped into Halsey for the second time.
Huh.
Because she was at that show and we had like a proper catch up there. So I'm just like, I was looking at it and just sort of reminded of this cool memory of stuff. But yeah, we're going to be using this photo for something in the near future. What is your high and low of the week?
I was thinking about this. I'm having trouble with this one because I feel like this week has been just the most normal, fine week. All things considered in all of this, I feel like we're finally starting to get a routine down, and every day has been pretty much the same of just like,
We really got a routine.
Really,
we've
just-
never had for 5 years.
yeah, so like some degree of consistency. I've been waking up and eating meals and vaguely taking care of myself and just watching content. I can't really point to a moment that felt low in that, but I also can't point to a moment that felt particularly high in it. So there's something to be said for routine things evening out. I don't know yet. I don't really know what to say for a low.
I similarly, like, I have for my low just like intermittent anxiety.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the low point, is just feeling like everything's kind of like, talking to my parents, being like, oh, like they're having a much harder time with this than I am, and feeling kind of like, you know, I don't even know what the feeling is there, like a sadness or like an empathy, but you know, that's like a passing feeling.
Yeah, I feel like if you're just alone like long enough, like we go through the cycles of our own chemistry,
Yeah.
whatever that may be, you know, the good and the bad of it. I had a couple of highs. I always have a couple highs. I'm really bad at like determining what is the highest of the highs, and I don't like classify, because they're highs for different reasons. So I know it's like, so instead of what's your high and low, we could do highs and lows.
Highs
you know?
and lows.
Highs, it's like a nice little slope. Starting most recently is today's my best friend's birthday. It's Luke's birthday. So we had like a FaceTime. We actually surprised him with a FaceTime.
Nice.
We've surprised each other over the years, like by flying out and like by stuff. And they came to LA before all this started. They came to LA for my birthday. So David and I, it's the three of us. We surprised him with a FaceTime today, and we had like a nice catch up. So that was a high. The other high is I love when we get the art for stuff right. Mm-hmm. And between our next single and Gaming Lion, there was like two kind of like art epiphanies that happened this week that wound up getting executed in such a cool way.
Yeah.
So I'm like excited for everybody to see the art that we kind of put out alongside our stuff, because that's not necessarily our wheelhouse. It's more your wheelhouse than mine for sure. But when you come up with like an art thing that like is cohesive and feels right.
It's a good feeling.
Remember when we were talking about coming up with the art for the single, and I said like, when it's right, it'll feel right.
Yeah, the right thing always feels right. The right thing is the thing that makes you like, yeah, that's the thing.
That's the thing.
You can't be lukewarm about the right thing.
If you're like, oh, yeah, it's like it's not right. It's not the thing. And then my last high is that I'm TikTok famous, baby.
Oh yeah.
I had one video that has just passed 120,000.
I hope fame doesn't change you.
It already has, man. You know, I'm not drinking kombucha.
That's what did it. Is the TikTok fame.
It was the TikTok fame.
You're gonna leave to join the hype house.
Yeah, actually, my bags are packed right now. No, I wanted to sort of do this right and like just get it, like understand it. I think what I like about this video is it came from a genuine appreciation of the type of content that was out there on TikTok, and it was like I was interacting with it in a very genuine way, and so people are also interacting with it in a genuine way. Like it doesn't feel like we're a band trying to make a TikTok. It feels like I appreciate this sort of culture, and I've done the sort of homework of like understanding the sort of authenticity of it, and mixed with the kind of brandingness of it, and found like a happy medium that people are resonating with. So yeah, just nice that like, you know, they say like the proof is in the pudding. I'm like, I set out to kind of do this properly, and it's nice that like something is actually reacting for once the way that my like sort of goals have kind of like aligned with it. What are you looking forward to?
What am I looking forward to? As always, I'm looking forward to the songs that we're currently working on. We just finished up a single, and that always feels good. And I'm looking forward. And a remix. Yeah, actually, our the next two things pretty much that we're putting out are both things that I'm pretty excited for. And I'm, you know, it's always nice to with every release. It's always nice to feel like we're putting more of ourselves out into the world, and there's more of us for people to find and interact with, and hopefully have a relationship with. And like the more of that is out there that I'm proud of, the happier I am. So I'm excited for our releases.
I think you stole mine, because I'm also really excited about those releases. Like I think we've always had a bit of a complicated, if not contentious, relationship with the music we've put out.
Yeah, it's hard to like feel 100% about the music you're working on.
And just compromises with time often.
Yeah,
you know,
that's a huge part.
And I think now just we really were able to get everything we wanted on these records and take the time to make it right. We're still kind of taking the time to make it right.
Yeah.
And
but this feels like the least rushed. Like I feel like with every release we get a little bit better at being on top of like actually allocating the time to put the focus and like make it something that we really feel good about.
And hit the dumb notes. Like I've been coming to you with the dumb notes,
Yeah.
like with like that F is like off, but then we go in and like there's the
nudging
fade. Like,
things 10 milliseconds because like that stuff does make a difference to the overall picture of something.
but even like, to the overall, and I know that like my sort of internal monologue is like, oh, somebody's going to hear that. And like, that's going to be the thing that takes them out. I think just because we're all editors, like you and I are just editors.
Yeah.
When we listen to our own music, when there's something that we had to let slide because of the timing, because we had to let it go and leave us, I think it takes us out of our ability to actually listen to and enjoy our music.
Yeah, very much
I know
true.
people often ask, like, do you like listening to your stuff? And I say like 1 or 2 songs I can listen to throughout without skipping, but oftentimes I'll hear the thing that I wish we changed and know that we can't. And that's not how you want to feel listening to music in general, let alone the thing that's out in the world representing you. But, listening back to this new single, not only does it feel great and like this like nice song that I won't have a qualm with listening to later, but also it, we did it with our friend Miette, who we've known since day one of Berkeley for the last 6 years. And it feels like a kind of like beautiful mark of a long friendship.
Yeah. It's really cool.
So I'm excited about
Something
it.
to look forward to.
Hey, the song's called Balance. We don't have to beat around the bush. It's called Balance. It's coming out.
You heard it here first, folks.
It's called Balance.
It's called Balance.
And I think you might like it. We hope you like it.
I think that's a
I think
wrap.
is this something you could order easily at a deli? Because that's a wrap.
Wow.
Thank you everybody for listening. Once again, a reminder that we have a Patreon and every piece of support helps. So if you want to ask us questions, that's the way to do it. And tune in Sunday for our interview with our next artist. Keep listening and keep your ear out for new music and new projects from us. Thank you again for listening and have a wonderful week.
We would like to thank Alan C. for supporting Talking Lion on Patreon and Isotope.